Hello, everyone. This is Bonnie from Good Earth Spa. And today, what I need to do is I need to take my soaps and put them on a white background because Amazon is now requiring this. So, first, I'll show you the soaps. These are the soaps that need to be updated. There are 6 of them. So I'm going to show you how I do it. So I first take all the pictures in a light box, which you can see the background, and there's a little piece of paper under it so that nothing gets dirty. And then I'm going to show you how I remove this background and just put it on a white background. So first, I'm not a graphic artist by trade, but I did take graphic arts classes in college, and I did get a graphic arts certificate. So I'm using Photoshop. You should be able to follow along even if you don't have any graphic arts experience. And a lot of other photo editing softwares have similar tools. So Google is your friend. If there's anything you ever need to do, just look it up. Someone has done it before. So the first thing I'm going to do, this is the vanilla bean soap. So first I need to duplicate this layer and then turn off the background layer. And I'm going to grab my eraser, make it a little bit bigger, and I'm going to go ahead and just erase most of this by hand, but I'm not going to get close to the soap because I'm going to then switch to the Magic Extractor tool. And I have my stuff set up so that I do all my soaps like this lately. Anyway, this is the new format, the new format. It seems like I have to change it every time. So I have some of my stuff already set up, so you might have to play around with certain settings to set things up for you. So now I'm using the Magic Extractor, which allows me to select some pixels, and the program will select it, and you'll see that little moving line there, and then you press delete to delete them. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And with this, there's lots of contrast between the background and the soap color. Sometimes that's not the case, and I'm sure we will get an example of that. That's why I'm going to do 6 soaps with you today, and Control D will deselect that box right there. And I'm going to throw in another layer down here and move it in between those 2 layers, and I'm going to paint it white. So sometimes when we paint it white, it reveals, Control plus to zoom in, there are some little pixels over here that we didn't get. So I'm going to go back to the eraser, and I'm going to get a much smaller brush, and whoops, I need to undo that with Control Z because I have the wrong layer selected. So going back to the background layer, you can see that I can remove these pixels here that you couldn't tell that they weren't removed at first. But before I go crazy with that, the next thing I do is you can see that the soap is on a white background. So if that's all you wanted to accomplish, fine, I guess you're done. But it kind of looks like it's just floating there in the abyss. So I like to add a drop shadow, and I do that by going down to the FX and selecting drop shadow. And I have the standard black and the angle and the opacity that I use for all my soaps. You can play with those, and you can also multiply it with another color. I like black because it makes gray. So now you can see that there's just a little outline around here. So now when I zoom in, I can see some areas here that I do want to clean up. So zooming way in, I just want to check just the outline. Usually it does a good job. I have my eraser tool, so I'm going to take that little spot and check for any other background pixels or anything that looks a little bit jagged. And that is basically what I do. So finally, I use a 1x1 crop. So I'm going to go ahead and apply that now. And I like to center it. So, oops, sorry about that. I like to center it such that the square matches up closely with the front pane of the soap, and there's about an equal amount of white space going all around the soap. And so when I photograph the soaps, I like to be able to see 3 sides, so 1, 2, and 3, because it gives it a little bit more of a 3-dimensional look, and that's just what I like. So I'm happy with this crop, and then that soap is finished. So if you want to see what it looked like before, then you can just turn off those other layers. That's what it looked like before, and that's what it looks like now. I'm going to go through and do that to the next soap. I'm going to go a little bit faster unless I need to use another tool that I haven't already used. So here I have the Unscented Soap, which is one of my best sellers. People love this soap. Let's duplicate the layer. This is the one with goat milk and shea butter, and I sell a lot of this soap. So I need to update this picture to make sure that I am compliant with Amazon's new policies, because the current picture has some soap sitting on a bamboo mat, and I guess that doesn't work for Amazon. So I'm just doing the same thing I did before. I'm just erasing that background as much as I can. So this is a much lighter colored soap. We might run into some issues here with the Magic Extractor, but that looks actually really good. Sometimes when the pixels are really close in color, it will want to take some of the soap out too. So that's something to be careful about. Adding a layer, putting it in the middle, and painting it white really quick. Right? Yeah, what's going on here? I can see it. Oh, I have something selected, so Control D to deselect that. That's a problem. Okay, now I should be able to paint. Oh, and I can see there are a bunch of pixels that got missed. So I can go in and go back to this layer and grab the eraser and making it small. So I'm kind of glad that happened, because a lot of times when you're like, why won't my tools work? A lot of times something is selected and it just doesn't work if you have something selected. So up here we have some pixels. And the other thing I really like about the drop shadow that I'm going to add right now is that if you have crazy pixels all over the place, they'll also get a drop shadow. So it really helps to stick them out so you can see where they are. And that looks pretty good. So we'll go ahead and give this the 1x1 crop, where I'm trying to get this center square on the 9 grid pretty close to that front plane of the soap, and trying to get the white space to look like it's pretty even. And now that one is finished. So we'll go to the next one. And then this one is Sandalwood Vanilla Soap. Yeah. This one I also needed to update because I'm using a new sandalwood, and this sandalwood has a slightly different color than the old sandalwood that I was using. So first, duplicating the layer, turning off that layer, and getting my eraser and a larger brush, but not like gigantic. It makes a huge jump here. That's okay though. This size is good too. Oops, I need to undo that using Control Z because I got into the soap a little bit. So now I'm going to go over to the magic wand And when it picks up this much, just look really closely at your edges. You can even zoom in if you want to. And you're pressing delete to delete these. So this is the delete key on your keyboard. So Control D to deselect all that so I can continue to work. And I'm going to go ahead and get this background and paint it white. And now I'll go ahead and add that drop shadow so it doesn't look like it's floating in the abyss. And now I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on these edges and make sure that they look pretty clean. Yeah, they look pretty good. So then all I have to do is crop on this one. All right, that looks good. So then the next one, this is Sandalwood Soap. So I'll just start going a little bit faster through these steps. And I'm just doing the same thing over and over again. And this is just my standard process to do these pictures. These are soaps I've had up for quite a long time because I restocked the same one. So all the pictures that I have other things, like the Sandalwood has pictures of incense, and the charcoal one has like essential oil bottles and other fun props. And Amazon's like, no, just white. So, okay, you got to adapt with the times. So, time to update the pictures. Oh, you know what? I added a drop shadow to nothing instead of adding it to the correct layer. So it's like, where is that drop shadow? Here it is. So let's zoom in because I know we have some extra pixels over here, and I am going to need to clean this one up a little bit. The top looks good, but over here we have some little bits. Okay. So here is an area right here in this circle where my magic tool took a little bit too much out of the soap. So when that happens, I use the clone stamp tool. So using this tool, do an alt click and just bring it over, and it will fill in that area for you. So that makes it really easy when that happens. It does happen. If your tolerance isn't set sometime, or if you don't look closely enough, you'll see that sometimes it just takes a little bit too much of a bite, and rather than redoing the whole thing, sometimes it's easier to just add back a little bit of pixels. So that looks good. All right, that is the Sandalwood Soap, and next we have Dragon's Blood, which is another favorite. This one is very sort of masculine, but ladies like it too. So I'm going to go ahead and I can also type in my brush size. I've just like using this lighter, so I couldn't get one that I like. And I don't have all day. Nobody got time for that. All right. So we have that. And also I want to maybe sharpen this up a bit because I just think that certain areas look a little more fuzzy. So all right, so now we can see that there's a bunch of stuff going on over here, a bunch of pixels that I don't want. Okay, that was my computer screen. I have a touchscreen computer. So sometimes I have little smudges, and when I go to do stuff like this, I'm like, is that on my screen or is that in my picture? So you're probably like, why did she just erase right there? Nothing happened. Well, it's because I have a smudge on my screen. It's cool. All right, and last we have charcoal herbal, which is a fun soap. A lot of guys like this one too. It's also a fun color. It's a dark gray to black, and it has a really nice masculine scent. Some patchouli in there, vetiver, some other stuff. And this one has lots of contrast, so the Magic Extractor tool should be doing a good job. Sometimes I have more problems when the soap is very light colored. I didn't have a lot of problems today, but I did get to show you the clone stamp tool. So when I have those problems, if I accidentally take a little bit too much out, that's how I build it back in there. And then all of these images will be compliant with Amazon's policy. So I will be a happy camper. Let's add that drop shadow. I can already see some pixels over here, but I'll do the drop shadow first. Okay, and sometimes that drop shadow also helps to really reveal stuff because those pixels will also get a drop shadow, the ones you don't want, because they're in that layer. We'll just smooth that out. I'm also using a pretty soft brush too, so I could harden it up a little bit if I wanted, but this is pretty good for what I'm doing. And this edge, I'll just kind of do that. All right, now look up the side. Here we have some pixels here that we don't want. Some background snuck its way through and didn't get all the way removed. And that's why I take out so much with the large brush, because you don't really want to look through the whole thing. You just want to look close at the edges. So if you know you got everything else, then you know that it should only be the edges that you're concerned with. And you'll know that you did it right, but you won't know that the Magic Extractor did a good job. until you inspect it. All right, so now we have just the crop, and then that's about it. Let's see. All right, so that's it. I'm done. That is how I set my images with a white background. Of course, I'm using a light box. You can also use this technique with any background. It can get a little bit more difficult when you have a lot of different colors and different things going on if it's just really busy, because that magic extractor will want to just pick up everything or only one thing at a time. Like if you have a wall that's white and you have an object that's like beige, and then you have like a lamp that's red, and you're trying to just get the one object, it can get pretty complex. But I use the light box, and usually I don't have a problem, except with some light colored soaps, or sometimes soaps that have a lot of swirls, but one of the swirl colors is white. Then sometimes it will want to delete like all of the white swirl in the soap with the background. So in that case, you can play with your tolerance and everything. But otherwise, this is a method that works for me. So I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time. Bye.